Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Rough day today. Police officer killed in Ontario, Canada. 2 others shot, still in hospital. That will be our lead story tonight. We will also be looking at Donald Trump's town hall on CNN last night. Sort of recapping that. Yeah, we have quite a few different stories to touch on this evening. We'll mention briefly the National Citizen's Inquiry, which is still running over on our secondary Rumble channel. We've been covering that all day long today. Day 1 of the hearings for the NCI in Quebec City today. So 2 more days of testimony is still ahead of us. And then we'll take a brief break for a few days. Then next week, they'll be back at it for a grand finale in Ottawa. Some controversy surrounding the NCI as well, with the former premier of Newfoundland calling the NCI process, flawed. Brian Peckford resigned from the NCI board sometime back and then went further and criticized the NCI during a freedom rally in Whitby just recently. We'll touch on that tonight as well, I think, if we have some time. Hopefully we will. But that is still running over on Rumble channel, Maverick channel 2 on Rumble. We picked up the second channel there to facilitate exactly this kind of occasion when we have something we're trying to cover in long form, like the inquiry, and it's overlapping into our regular broadcast time here on the main Maverick News channel. So we've got that, and also climate change activists, the Green Party, holding a news conference today to talk about methane emissions in Canada. There's also a new survey out that says Canadians, 75% of us, apparently, according to this new survey, negatively view China as a trading partner. So that kind of ties in, doesn't it, to the current situation with concerns about Chinese infiltration, Chinese influence over Canada's elections at the federal, provincial, and even the local level. So those are the stories that we have for you this evening. Those are the top stories. Let me take a brief break. When we come back, we'll take you to the news conference with the Ontario Provincial Police and get you the most up-to-date information we can on the fatal shooting of that police officer today and the same incident that has left 2 other Ontario Provincial Police officers in hospital after being shot. Don't go away.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
The New World Order. Government overreach, The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, folks, let's get right to it. Let's get you the latest information on this ambush. That's what senior police officers are calling it. Senior administrators at the OPP addressing this shooting of 3 officers, 1 fatally, calling it an ambush. The officers were responding to reports of a gunshot, according to OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrick. It happened early this morning in a small community in the municipality of Clarence Rockland, about 50 kilometers east of downtown Ottawa. This occurred around 2 a.m. Officers were called to a disturbance at a home on Laval Street where someone had reported the sound of a gunshot. So they arrived at the residence, and upon arrival, 3 of the 4 officers, according to police, were ambushed and shot. 42-year-old Sergeant Eric Mueller was killed. 2 other veteran OPP officers were injured. Creek says Mueller of the Russell County OPP detachment was, in his words, murdered simply, selflessly serving his community. One of the injured OPP officers is a 43-year-old male with 19 years of service on the force and remains at the Ottawa Hospital. He is in stable but critical condition. The other officer is a 35-year-old male with 10 years of service. He has been released and is recovering at home. OPP officials say 1 person has been taken into custody. They say there is no risk to public safety tonight. A 39-year-old male has been arrested. They say this happened with no further incident. And according to court documents, 39-year-old Elaine Belfuel is charged with 1 count of first-degree murder in connection with the death of Sergeant Mueller, along with 2 counts of attempted murder. Belfuel did appear in court this afternoon. He was arraigned and remanded in custody. So Carrick says the reported gunshots that led to the disturbance call were not confirmed. He says sounds of gunshots were unconfirmed. Officers arrived within minutes of each other. Eventually, he says, the 3 officers were on scene at the time of the shooting. Sergeant Mueller started his career with the Ontario Provincial Police 21 years ago as a special constable. Carrick says Mueller was hired as a constable in 2006 and promoted to sergeant in 2018. His colleagues say he is or was a coach, a mentor, somebody everyone looked up to. They called him the glue that held his shift together, the best leader that many people had ever had the privilege of working for. Those words coming from Carrick. We take you now to this news conference with the OPP at the Russell County Detachment.
In the spirit and intent of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action, we acknowledge the traditional Indigenous territories on which we are gathered. We humbly acknowledge that Ottawa sits on the ancestral land of many Indigenous generations of many Indigenous nations who have been here since time immemorial. My name is Bill Dixon. I'm the Manager of Media Relations for the OPP, and again, thank you for being here. After the Commissioner speaks, we will hear from Inspector Anne-Christine Gauthier. She'll be delivering some statements in French. It will not mirror the Commissioner's statements, but it will mirror what has gone out to the media so far. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ontario Provincial Police Commissioner Thomas Creek to provide some details and comment on the death of our member.
Thank you for your patience and being with us here this afternoon. I'm joined by Deputy Commissioner Chris Harkins, the Deputy Commissioner of Field Operations. And we're here this afternoon to share some details with you of the tragic loss of one of our officers who has yet again been murdered, simply selflessly serving his community, and the injury of two other OPP officers. This morning at just after 2 a.m., our officers responded to a sound of gunshots that was reported by a citizen. They arrived at a residence on Laval Street in Bourget, and upon arrival, 3 of our officers were ambushed and shot. Tragically, 42-year-old Sergeant Eric Mueller was killed, and 2 other veteran OPP officers were injured. One of the officers has been treated and released from hospital and is recovering from home. The other veteran OPP officer remains in hospital undergoing treatment. A 39-year-old male was arrested and was taken into custody without further incident by heroic officers that were responding in aid to their injured colleagues. It was just this Sunday, just days ago, that we attended the Ontario Police Memorial. Since September, Canada has lost 10 officers in the line of duty, 9 of which were murdered. Today, with the murder of Sergeant Eric Mueller, that makes 5 police officers in the province of Ontario that have been murdered since September. Eric was an exemplary officer, a family man. He started his career with the Ontario Provincial Police 21 years ago as a special constable in our offender transport unit right here in Ottawa. In 2006, he was hired as a provincial constable. And in 2018, in recognition of his exemplary performance, his dedication to duty, his commitment to his colleagues, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant. He's described by his colleagues as a coach, a mentor, someone that everybody looked up to, the glue that held his shift together, the best leader that many people ever had the privilege of working for. And again, today, our hearts are broken as we remember Eric. We stand beside his family, and we focus our attentions on the recovery of the officers who have been physically injured and emotionally impacted. Thank you. I will take questions after we read a press release in French. Inspector.
Thank you, Commissioner. La police provinciale de l'Ontario est en deuil suivant le décès d'un agent dans l'exercice de ses fonctions aujourd'hui. Le 11 mai 2023, juste après 2 heures du matin, des agents ont été appelés sur les lieux d'un incident à une maison sur la rue Laval à Bourgette, où un individu avait signalé avoir entendu un coup de feu. 3 agents ont arrivé sur les lieux, ont été blessés par une arme à feu. Le sergent Eric Mueller, du détachement de la police provinciale de l'Ontario du comté de Russell, a été transporté à l'hôpital où il a succombé à ses blessures. 2 autres agents du même détachement ont été blessés par l'arme à feu et sont présentement stables à l'hôpital. À l'heure actuelle, cet incident ne présente aucun risque pour la sécurité publique. L'accusé est en état d'arrestation et ne pose aucun risque pour notre communauté.
Then
L'OPP
I'm sure they'll go
soutient
back to
la
English when
famille
they
et les
get to the
collègues
questions in just
des
a
membres à
moment.
faire face à cette tragédie.
I
Et
appreciate
nos
your
pensées
patience
et
as
nos
we work our
prières
way
les
through this.
accompagnent. Les membres de la famille demandent aux médias de respecter leur vie privée durant cette période extrêmement difficile.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Inspector. As you can imagine, even though this happened at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're still early on in the investigation. So there will be a lot of things that we just can't acknowledge or talk about right now. But we will open this to questions. We'll start one question each, maybe a follow-up, and we'll go from there. So might as well start right on the left. Oh, sorry, we'll go here first and then over to you.
You're absolutely. I'm wondering what else you can tell us about what the officers knew before they arrived on the scene, the house. And it seems that they all arrived on the scene together, not.
So we had a call from a citizen that reported possibly hearing gunshots. So it was a disturbance call. The sounds of gunshots were unconfirmed. The officers arrived within minutes of each other. Eventually, 3 officers were on scene at the time of the shooting.
Do you know if anyone else was injured?
I'm not aware of anyone else being in the home at the time, and nobody else was injured. There have been no civilians or citizens injured in this encounter.
Friend from CBC.
You described this as an ambush. Is there anything to indicate that the shooter was waiting for police to intentionally shoot them?
That'll form part of the investigation, but that's exactly how I would describe it based on the information that I have. When 3 officers arrive on scene and within minutes are shot, 1 is killed, another is very seriously and critically injured, and another injured to the point of requiring medical attention for simply arriving on scene, I categorize that as an ambush.
Reporting Gallings, can you provide us any more information? Suspect, many residents talk about drugs.
That also will form part of the investigation, but this is not a case where this is an individual that we have been dealing with repeatedly for years. But we'll figure out exactly what the history of the individual is throughout the course of the investigation.
And just on the remaining police officer in the hospital, are his injuries life-threatening?
Serious. He is in stable but critical condition.
Do you know what kind of weapon did he use this morning against your police officers? What caliber?
No, that will all form part of the forensics that will be part of this ongoing criminal investigation. I can tell you that there was a long gun found at the scene, but what firearm is responsible for the injuries to the officers, the caliber, make, model of that firearm, that is all part of the ongoing investigation.
You released any information about injured officers?
We haven't released any information about them in relation to their names. We want to be respectful of their privacy, of course. I can tell you that the 1 officer in hospital is approximately 43 years of age, 19 years of service, exemplary officer who is highly regarded by his colleagues and community. The other officer who was treated and released from hospital is 35 years of age, again, a 10-year veteran officer, an exemplary officer, also highly regarded by his colleagues and his community.
Global. I just want to know the actual update that you can share, because here was a vehicle that was towed and parked overnight about 500 meters from the crime scene. I want to know about that.
Nothing. I don't have that same information as I've reported. It happened on a residence on Laval, and that is part of the investigation. There are multiple people shot, so it's a very complicated crime scene, as you can imagine. So I'm not in a position to share with you details precisely as to who was shot exactly where on the property.
And about the suspect, do he live in that level 3 target or not?
Is the suspect,
Yeah.
the accused, was uninjured.
Yeah, where he live in that street, level street or not? He's from some somewhere else?
No, that my understanding is that was his residence.
Yeah, Today's checked with one newspaper. If the three police officers were shot, how did they manage to master the suspect?
But other officers arrived on scene and were able to safely take the accused into custody. As you can imagine, our officers are highly trained, and they were able to rely upon their training to safely apprehend the accused.
Is this the same hospital who was seriously injured in 2008?
Sergeant Mueller, he was seriously injured in an incident a number of years ago where he was very seriously injured, yes.
Any other questions?
Again, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here and allowing us to update you in the community accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. If you want looking for some one-on-ones with the inspector or myself afterwards.
So the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, addressed this just a short time ago. While in Brampton, Ontario, he was in Brampton today for a news conference dealing with public transit, a new program, new funding there for that, but took a moment to address the death of Constable Mueller.
Merci beaucoup.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Minister Mulroney, for that introduction. Before I get started, I just wanted to acknowledge the terrible tragedy that took place earlier today in Ottawa region. I'm deeply saddened by the loss of another brave police officer, OPP Sergeant Eric Mueller, who was senselessly killed in the line of duty. It's just devastating news, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family and loved ones during this difficult time. I also want to offer my prayers for the two officers who were injured as we await word on their condition. Just this past weekend, I had the honor of speaking at the Ontario Police Memorial Foundation ceremony of remembrance to remember the police officers who lost their lives in the line of duty over the past year. Tragically, this year, we've added 5 names to the memorial wall. And it's just devastating that next year we now have to add another name. It's also another reminder why it's so important that we support and recognize our police officers every chance we get and ensure that they're treated with the respect and dignity they deserve. May God bless our brave women and men in uniform.
I'm just looking in the comments, and I'm a little disturbed. I see some negative talk in there, and that's pretty sad. A man lost his life today. He's not going home to his family. Two other guys are in the hospital, shot. We don't know what the circumstances are surrounding that, but we do know we have two people who were shot, seriously injured. One's critical, and another guy is dead. Regardless of the circumstances, that's pretty damn sad. And if you can't express at least a little bit of compassion at a moment like this, then maybe you better step back, take a long, hard look in the mirror and do a little soul searching and ask your God for some forgiveness. Because Eric Mueller is not going home. You might not like cops. You might not like what they did in Ottawa. You might not like cops, period, for a whole bunch of different reasons. But Eric Mueller was a person. And he's not going home.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back, everybody. And you know what? I think Donald Trump is back too. He's on a roll. He was on a roll last night. Man, he was hot. He was the old Trump. You know, just defiant, witty, laying it on the line, not taking anything. He was in that town hall, that CNN town hall. And I don't think it went quite the way CNN was planning. Let's take a look at a few of these clips from the town hall last night. He's funny too. He is funny. Here we go. Donald Trump. Working the crowd. I mean, politics is, in large part, showbiz, especially these days. Talk about information warfare. That's it, man. You have to be able to communicate. You have to connect with the audience. You have to have a little bit of charisma, and he's got that in abundance. Here we go.
Back to what happened on that day.
He
You said
did
you
not
weren't.
say that.
January
He has testified that, Mr.
He did
President.
not say that.
But you said you weren't very involved that day. You did tell your supporters to come to Washington. You tweeted about it, about
Sure,
that
of
speech
course.
that happened on the rally.
Am I
So
allowed
when
to
they
say that?
when they went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers, why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out. So if you look at on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now I use Truth Social. I think it's far superior. Okay. I hope everybody's on. I hope everybody's on Truth. If you look, January 6th, just at before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on truth and I'm staying on truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
Mr. President, I looked at the same timeline that you did.
No,
Once
no,
it was
but you
clear,
didn't report that. You know why? Because it was
we did
taken
report it.
down.
I was reporting
It was
that
taken
day.
down and it wasn't.
But when
put
it was
back
clear,
Yeah, it was taken down. I remember. It was absolutely taken down. And what he just said there actually ties right into my comments just a moment ago. We are the party of law and order, he said. But things have changed. A lot changed when Justin Trudeau in Canada invoked the Emergencies Act. A lot changed when police came out and beat the protesters. The whole country changed. I said the moment that the Emergencies Act was invoked in Canada, that Canada was lost at that moment. I'd like to get it back. But so much public trust has been lost for many, and I'm seeing it in the comments here tonight. Even when a police officer loses his life, no compassion for some. For some people, it's just absolute mistrust, contempt. The relationship has been destroyed between many people, that social contract, if you will, between some citizens and police. Try to hold on to your humanity, folks, and your compassion, your tolerance. We need it now more than ever. If it slips away, you shall become the very monsters that you purport to fight. Donald Trump saying reminding people that we are the party of law and order. But I remember on that day, there were people protesting, and police officers pepper sprayed them, as I recall, pushed them back, and they said, "Hey, we were on your side." See, a lot of people just don't get it. The cops are not on your side. They're not on anybody's side. They're not supposed to be. If a cop is doing his or her job properly, they are simply there to keep the peace. It's not that they're on your side politically. It's not like they're going to come and fight with you. They are supposed to be there in a neutral capacity to keep the peace. Can't say that that's really happening. But the tide has shifted. There was a time when maybe you thought the cops were neutral because they were actually probably on your side to a great degree, and not so much on the side of some other minority groups and things of that nature. It just depends on the era. Cops have a bias too, a certain particular worldview. Everybody does. And the way people behave depends largely on what the social conditions of the time are, what's acceptable within the community, what the community standard is. Well, regardless of what the community standard is right now and how people view police, I would just hope that people can still find a little compassion in their hearts at a moment like this, and understand that cops are there. You may not agree with the law. You might not agree with the government. You might not even agree with what the cops are doing, but they are there just trying to do a job. That's why I never joined the military. I never became a police officer. I'm not really great at taking orders, especially when it's something I disagree with. But if you're a cop or if you're in the military, you pretty much have to take those orders and toe the line. That's your job. You're not there to make policy, you're there to enforce it. Policy, policing. And more than that, you're supposed to be neutral. Unfortunately, politics runs through everything. And so policing does become political. When it's done properly, when police officers do their jobs properly, most of the politics is removed. But it's always there to some degree. So, yeah, MAGA, the Republicans, the party of law and order, used to be. And I remember before the Freedom Convoy, even as the Freedom Convoy was rolling, I remember back before a lot of this stuff went down with the pandemic and, conservatives, the People's Party, the populists, everybody on that side of the political spectrum, they pretty much viewed themselves as pro-police, pro-blue line, right? And yet now what do I see? I see emotion. I see anger. I see complete distrust. And I see people within the populist movement, the freedom movement, if you will, using the exact same slogans that Black Lives Matter has used. Things like ACAB, all cops are bastards. What the hell happened to you guys? I know. What happened to the cops? What's happened to our society, our country, our communities? How do we restore what we once had? Or maybe more to the point, how do we make it better? We have to find a way to get back. We've got to find a way to get back. I'm sad to see the comments in the chat that I'm seeing tonight. So sad. Here's another Trump clip from the CNN town hall. Here he is. I don't think this CNN anchor did.
By the way, they were
What do you mean, not
declassified after.
really?
Not that I can think of. Let me just tell you, I have the absolute right to do whatever I want with them. I have the right. I was negotiating with NARA. Do you know what NARA is?
The National Archives.
Extremely left group of people. Extremely left. And I was negotiating with them. All of a sudden, they raided my house. They didn't raid the house of Joe Biden. They didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. And so
took
that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
You
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person. I'll tell you.
Can you answer why you held on to the documents?
I was negotiating, and we were talking to NARA. That's why.
You're a nasty person. People will remember that. The argument overall doesn't really matter much, I guess, at that point, does it? Let's bring it up. Here's another one. Hang on here. No, I think we're done. Okay. Those are the clips that I had for you tonight of Trump. But, he kind of owned it. He actually, I would say, scored big last night. I didn't get to watch it live because we were on here. But from what I've seen watching today, he has momentum. He will be very tough to catch. He has the base of support. He has MAGA. He's got the whole movement. Even DeSantis, I think he's going to have a hard time catching Trump. He is just so colorful. Extremely colorful. Yet when I watch these clips, when I watch a town hall like this CNN thing, I feel like I'm watching, you know, the movie Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Richard Dawson, or maybe the Hunger Games, you know, when they're televising these games, sometimes where people's lives are at stake. Brutal, right? I feel like I'm watching something like that. Or maybe Rollerball. Remember Rollerball from the 1970s, James Caan? It just has this game show feel to it. All the politics, especially when we're watching these heavily produced town hall made for TV productions. Even a lot of the speeches, when you watch them during the campaigns, even the January 6th hearings themselves. If you recall, we carried the very first evening or the very first hearing front to back, the whole thing. And I mentioned that at that time, the January 6th hearings, they were actually produced. I think it was one of the big producers from ABC put that whole thing together, and it was choreographed, timed out perfectly. It ran seamlessly. The testimony came in. I swear, because of the way everything was timed right out, that testimony almost had to be pre-scripted so that you knew exactly how long it was going to run. When we're running the National Citizens Inquiry, it sometimes runs an extra hour long because the testimony is not pre-scripted. You can tell. So sometimes, like tonight, it's still running, and it is now 6:46 p.m. Eastern time. We're in the same time zone right now as Quebec City, and it's still running. It started at 9 a.m. this morning. They always put in long days, and I don't know if they're going to go tonight until 7 or maybe even 8 p.m. But that January 6th hearing, it was tailor-made, timed out perfectly to fit right into a time slot on television. And it timed right out perfectly. It makes me somewhat suspect about how this whole thing was conducted. Sometimes I'm just watching these things too, and I'm wondering, how organic is this? Is this real, or is it preconceived, produced, manufactured? It feels like I'm watching some sort of a reality show or a game show sometimes. That's what that felt like. But maybe that's because we're watching an actual bona fide TV star, Donald Trump. He is a living, breathing caricature of himself. And I guess if you want to win at politics, that's the first thing you need. You need to be recognized. You have a big name. And he has that. And then you need to make use of that, leverage it, even if you have to make an appearance on CNN. There he is in enemy territory, and he came out smelling pretty good, didn't he? He scored big time. He kind of put her in her place and walked away with momentum, name recognition bolstered, just days after being found liable in that rape case where he was found not guilty of rape, but liable for sexual battery or whatever it was. It was a strange charge. And then being held liable for defamation because he said some things on social media that were less than favorable. So he was ordered to pay her $5 million. E. Jean Carroll. That feels like a game too to me. We'll see where things go with that Biden investigation from the GOP and the House committee. We ran all of that yesterday. Actual bank records, actual documents, a paper trail showing exactly where money was flowing to the Biden family and where the Biden family was putting it after they received it. And is anything shady going on there? Is there any criminal activity? Well, we will see what happens. Generally speaking, I mean, I'm not that optimistic that anything will happen to the president, regardless of whatever kind of investigation happens. It seems like he is untouchable. These Democrats, untouchable. I don't quite get it. To me, everything laid out yesterday was such a scandal. No excuse. Media should be all over that stuff. We ran it in its entirety, that whole news conference, because I really felt it was super important to make sure that people got the information. Hunter Biden's laptop, the information on that suppressed. People told it was Russian misinformation and they actually believed it. But all this new information is out there. Very few media outlets carrying it. Nothing up front. And I'm only talking about it here again because I feel it's so important that people need to know that it's out there. In fact, here are the documents from Congress. I have them in my possession here tonight. Congress of the United States, House of Representatives, Committee on Oversight and Accountability. Here are all the documents now. I have them. I suppose we should post these somewhere on our website or on social media, at least anyway. And it lists dollar figures, shows the beneficiary. Biden, Hallie Biden. 5,000, 25,000, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, 50,000, 100,000, 50,000, 50,000, 10,692, 300,000, 120,000, 25,000, 125,000, 15,000, 15,000, $1,065,692 in total. And there is more, a lot more. That's just what's listed on these pages. My goodness. You would think that would be enough, you know? Or no. No. No one is above the law. Yes, some people are clearly above the law. Yeah. Krista says, sounds like the Turdo Foundation. Yes, that is exactly the point that I was trying to make last night. You see the similarities beginning to emerge. China money here, China money there, foreign influence here, foreign influence there. It seems like everything in Canada runs in parallel to everything going on in the States, sometimes just on a smaller scale. Maybe on a larger scale in Canada in this case. Chinese influence over the Canadian electoral process. Super important, a very concerning thing. Should we have a public inquiry to get to the bottom of it? I would say so. Yup. Absolutely needed right now. Should the United States do more to dig up more information on this and get it to the public and hold certain people accountable if criminal activity has been taking place? I would say so. Yeah. To me, this is, if there's smoke and you find fire, that would be bigger than Watergate. That Hunter Biden laptop, I said that before too, bigger than Watergate. But the media has done such a great job, haven't they, of just ignoring it, pushing it to the back burner, hoping that the political flames erupting from it just slowly burn themselves out. While they throw allegations of Russia, Russia, Russia all over it, hoping that it will extinguish those flames before the public really figures it out or sees enough of it. Yeah, I see a pattern. I see similarities. I see parallels between Canada and the US. And if you stop and think about those parallels, the ties to the Chinese government, documents over the past few decades that show exactly how China would, and I think is, waging a war against the West. Fifth generation warfare, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're experiencing. Make no mistake, we are in World War III right now. Now, I don't have anything personally against China. I'm more afraid of our own government, frankly, at this point than China itself, but maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know. I do know this. Everything in this country has been turned right upside down. And why is that? Because I think our government has been infiltrated. I think we are under attack. I think that there are some politicians who are compromised on both the Canadian and US side. Can I name names? I wouldn't dare. Not at this point. But it seems like it's on the verge of coming out in a way that will do more than just embarrass and, governments. It might force some people from office. If only the mainstream media would get on board with some of the independent reporting going on out here. If only. Maybe we could have a different kind of country. We need truth, lots of it, now more than ever. Truth. Trump says he has truth social. How much truth is on over there? I don't know. I don't know. Speaking of truth, last night, I talked about that liberal document, right? I'll talk about it more when we come back. More truth when we return.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so last night I did mention this because I'd mentioned it the night before. This is a page off the Liberal Party of Canada's website talking about mandatory vaccinations. And I apologized because I reported on this 2 nights ago and told everyone that the Liberal Party had decided to adopt as one of the planks in its re-election campaign mandatory vaccinations again. But last night I apologized because I found out that it is not true and that the information that had been fed to me from multiple people was just factually not true. How do I know? Because I called. I was so disturbed by this idea, the thought that a Liberal government, if reelected, would invest $1 billion into a program to get provincial governments to come on board and implement mandatory vaccinations, making it mandatory to be vaccinated to get on a plane or a train and engage in cross-border interprovincial travel within Canada. Basically bring back all the mandates, except to see it's not true. Because my blood was boiling. And so, of course, I made some phone calls. I was trying to reach senior people within the party, some politicians, maybe even the Prime Minister himself. And I did speak to a couple of people who confirmed for me that this is not true. It is old. This is from the last election. That's fact. I also suggested last night that some people within the freedom movement who claim to be freedom fighters were using this information in a way that is not honest. And I think it was fed to me in a way that was not honest. And it put me in a difficult spot because I am all about truth. People keep coming to me saying, Rick, what are we going to do? And when this happened, some people messaged me and said, Rick, what are we going to do to stop these vaccine mandates again? You know, people come looking to me for solutions. I can't tell you that I'm going to save you. But I will tell you this, truth will set you free. Anything less will result in some form of enslavement. And yet tonight, you know, I'm seeing other freedom movement influencers, social media people running with this story. Oh, yeah, that's right. I thought I was, duped, and I apologized and I owned it because I was. Because when I spoke to the people at the Liberal Party, they assured me that this is actually old. This is election specific, and they left it up on the website because it was a reference to the previous election. They have not updated that yet because they're not in election mode for the next election. There is information on here about the party convention they had this past weekend, but it does not have all the old information deleted from it from the previous election. And I suppose they leave that stuff up there because the government is currently sitting. It's still the existing government. They're still in power. And these are the things they ran on in the last election. So you could say, it could be up there at 1 because their webmaster just has been too lazy to take it down, or 2, maybe they leave it up there so that people can refer back to it and see exactly what promises were made in the last election. And then they can see how well the government is doing at fulfilling those promises. Either way, it's still on the website. And the way it reads, because it says if a Liberal government is reelected, it will do this and that and that and this and make mandatory vaccination a thing again. Except, see, it's from the last election. It's not for the upcoming election. And yet, I've seen, I saw social media influencers grab a hold of this yesterday after, or even just around the same time that I was, ahead of the curve, I guess, for some of them. And I was apologizing, say, wait a minute, somebody fed me this, not accurate, really, really sorry, red alert, false alarm. While others were still running with it and getting people very upset. And I know that when we ran it the first night, people got upset. You want to build a social media channel, you want to build a YouTube channel, just run stuff like that. Man, the hits we got, the traffic, off the chart. Everybody was scared. Everybody was coming to find out what this thing was about that I was talking about. And I was misled. And I apologize. But then I see other influencers, and there were other ones who were on at the same time as me. Some with bigger followings than we have here, bigger audiences. And I'm not going to name names tonight because I just don't want to go down that road. But they were on there And that was one of the reasons, honestly, that I ran with the story, because I verified in several different ways. And one of the ways that I verified it was by looking at what other people were saying. Is this thing, are other people running with it? And indeed they were that night, the night that we ran the thing the first time. And then after I apologized, I went and I looked and I thought, I wonder if anybody else is retracting any of this information. Nope. Haven't found one. Not a single one. What I did find was a couple of people doubling down. Doubling down. Even when they were told and acknowledged in their chats that people were telling them outright that it's not true, they were saying, oh no, that's a lie. It is true. It's still on their website. No, they're going to do it. Doubled down. Yeah. And then I saw another guy with a much bigger following than we have here even. He grabbed a hold of the story and he started running it. Another freedom-oriented streamer. His was fresh. He just started with it today. This thing has taken on a life of its own in a way. But you know why? Because some people are pushing it, peddling it. I told you, it's fear-mongering. There are people who have motives that are not pure. I know this is not true. It's old. What I'm telling you, it's just the facts. If I wanted to build up a big audience and get people to donate, you know what I'd do? I'd sit here and I'd just scare the crap out of you like the other ones. And I'm disturbed and disappointed to see that other people are still running with it and running with it hard. And even after they've been told that it isn't true by many people, they couldn't be bothered to take the time to make the same phone calls that I made or to check anything out. No. And I think we all need to be asking ourselves why. When someone tells you, like multiple people tell you, and you acknowledge live on social media that you're being told the information you're sharing is not accurate, and then you double down anyway and say, no, who's lying? Must be the liberals, must be other people, because this is true. When you know someone just told you, check your facts. Better double check it. No, because you know there's an old saying that says, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Especially when you're trying to jack people up and get them to do something that maybe they ought not be doing. Oh yeah, and I know I had some people sending me clips of other social media influencers today, and I was told, oh, they have new information, and it is true. Rick, it is true. Except no, when I looked at it, no, they've got old information. They're way behind the curve. And it's one of two things. They've been duped in a similar way that I've been duped, or they're well aware and they're running the story anyway. And I know a lot of people are sitting back saying, thinking that maybe I'm the one who's the problem. Oh yeah, I'm the one, right? I'm lying. Okay, you'll see. You'll see. Remember this night. And take note of this. This is why you really need to be questioning what the hell is really going on around you. We're living in the middle. We are in the middle of a huge global conflict. It is World War III. We're going through a war like that. It's unprecedented in its nature. We've never been through a war like this as humankind, ever. Much of it is information warfare, psychological warfare. And I've been trying to tell you that you're being manipulated from all sides. And what I'm showing you right now is proof of that. You don't want to hear it, a lot of you, because you're addicted to the fear porn. You really are. You want it to be true because you get this adrenaline rush. I know you do, because I've experienced it myself. I get it. You want it to be true because you want that rush and you want confirmation of all the things that you believe. And I would put it to you that this government is entirely capable and probably willing to do exactly what we've been talking about. But the truth is, they're not doing that right now. The facts don't support that, because the facts show something completely different, if you're willing to look at the facts, at the actual truth. And so you really need to be asking yourself, why would someone do this? Because the information, this lie that is being perpetuated by freedom fighters, who's the information being directed at? If you want to win the information war, or the war through information warfare, you look at what the woke side is doing and who are they targeting? And you look at the documentaries that are run where they're warning you about government misinformation and disinformation and the way that they're deceiving you. And they're telling you that the government is feeding you information to manipulate you. But what I'm showing you is that there are people on your own side who are feeding you information to manipulate you. The lie has been blatantly exposed, and that lie is coming from your own side, and it's directed at you and me. They got to me so they could get to you. You better ask yourself why. That in itself is as dangerous, maybe more dangerous, than the propaganda you're being fed from the government or the woke side. And you need to understand something, folks. This information warfare, the way it's being waged, is incredibly sophisticated. It's also complicated, and it's not just coming from one side or the other side. It's coming from multiple sides, because there are many players in this. And one group feeds off another political group, off another political group, off another social group, off this group, and they see what's going on out there, and these people who are good at it and who engage in it, they see when a piece of information comes out, or a story or a narrative, and then they latch onto it and they add to it and they give that more velocity and they throw it at you. And you can't really tell where it's coming from, but I am just showing you right now exactly where it's coming from, how it's being delivered to you, and it's coming from your own side if you're a freedom-oriented person watching this program. It's not being directed at the woke people. They're not receiving this messaging. If you're receiving that transmission, I don't know if you're the resistance or what the hell you are, but I'll tell you what they are. They're the propagandists, and they are aiming it directly at you, and they're hitting you right between the eyes. Ask yourself why. Did it get you upset? Did it make you angry? Did it scare you? Yeah. Why do they want you scared? Isn't it the government that's supposed to scare you? Are they the government? I don't know. I don't think they're the government. Oh, there are probably government players in there, no doubt about that. They're kind of all around, right? Monitoring, checking, looking. But some people want you to do something or some things. They want to motivate you. They want to manipulate you. And they're doing it. They got me. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not the only one. I'm seeing other social media influencers who have either been duped, and I know a couple of them have enough integrity that I think that's exactly what's happened, and they're still running with it. regardless of what I've told you, they still believe it. In other cases, I think they probably know that it's not true, but they're still running with it because, if it hurts Trudeau and the Liberals, who cares? And if it gets people more and more angry, that's probably a good thing. So be it. Who cares? I care. I care. I don't want to engage. I refuse to engage in the distribution of propaganda. Fake information, fake news, fake narratives that have a political purpose. And it's done all the time these days by the CIA, probably by CSIS, by other government agencies. It's done by political organizations. It's done by people who want to raise funds. It's done by people who want you to respond and act in a particular way. They want you to do something. They're getting you jacked up. They're getting you ready with fear. The most powerful emotion, fear. Can't think straight once you're scared. Hell, man, it scared the crap out of me. And people were out calling me, talking about leaving the country because of what I reported. And yeah, that thought crossed my mind too. I said that last night as well. And boy, that's all because of fear. But it wasn't rational. And that fear was not based on anything factual. It was based on a lie. I could run you the clips of the other social media people, but I'm not really into picking any fights tonight. If you've seen that stuff, though, I'm just encouraging you to, again, question everything. And then ask yourself, why are they telling me this? What is it they want me to do? And then, the one guy in particular, again, I'm watching his stuff, and the whole thing, like the last 2 posts that he put up, front to back, fear, 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 scare, 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 fear, 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 zero positivity till the end. And I love each and every one of you. Sure you do.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, Elizabeth May of the Green Party in Canada. News conference today talking about methane. I'm not going to run too much of this, but I want to run some of it because all this climate change stuff, these people are not, I wouldn't say they're part of the freedom movement at all. And yet I hear people, conservatives, populists, freedom fighters, sometimes coming forward and saying, well, I'm so frustrated with the political things and I don't know who to vote for. I'm going to vote green. Makes me just blow a blood vessel in my forehead. I just don't understand, because I'm sure they don't understand what they really stand for. So in order to understand, you have to listen to people on the other side sometimes and really listen. Well, let's listen to a little bit of this news conference about methane reduction. Here we go. This is from today.
So let me just start by going immediately to my left and
They're
introduce
Green
Tom
Party
Green,
urging
the
action
Senior
on
Climate
methane
Policy
emissions.
Advisor with the Suzuki Foundation, and the great focus of their work on methane.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for coming today. My second day on the job at the David Suzuki Foundation, I went to a methane conference here in Ottawa, and that was 5 years ago. And since then, I've been involved in methane, many meetings. I've met so many methane experts, top scientists, some of them with the Environmental Defense Fund, the Clean Air Task Force, other at Carleton University, and so on. And also spoken to a lot of industry people. And one thing I've noticed is a growing will to tackle the methane problem. We have to understand methane is a very potent greenhouse gas, but it's a real opportunity because it's the one gas that if we tackle now, we get immediate benefits because it's so potent and it also comes out of the atmosphere fairly quickly. So this is a real opportunity, and we know that methane mitigation is very cost effective. The federal government has shown leadership and is moving ahead with stringent new methane regulations to meet the commitment to ensure that the oil and gas industry reduces its emissions by at least 75% by 2030. And we're very pleased with that commitment, want to see that move forward. But the recent report from the Commissioner on the Environment and Sustainable Development added more urgency to what we already know. Namely, the government doesn't actually have an accurate inventory of what methane emissions are being emitted by the oil and gas industry. Right now, it's calculated based on emission factors and estimates and industry reported data. But when scientists go out in the field and they use their instruments and they fly over with planes and they go by with sniffer trucks and all these different techniques, what they consistently find is that Canada's inventory is greatly underestimating the amount of methane. Not only that, when we look at the sources where the inventory reports the methane, they don't map to what the scientists are finding when they go out with their instruments. So we have this data that is being used to inform the development of regulations, but the data is not tracking reality. And so there's a real missed opportunity here to dial in very effective regulations that will reduce those emissions. So there's a solution that we're all calling for, and that is actually in the mandate letter for the Minister of Natural Resources, which is that we need a global center of excellence. And this global center of excellence is to help make sure that we measure methane accurately, that the data is collected, analyzed, and is available to a range of stakeholders, industry, government regulators, so that we can tackle this problem and move forward effectively. We have to keep in mind that reducing methane emissions has climate benefits, but it also has benefits for industry. It's the most cost-effective climate action out there. And it also it will make it easier for the oil and gas emissions cap to be achieved. So I'm here on behalf of the David Suzuki Foundation saying we need to go further and faster on reducing methane emissions, and it's more than possible. So we're calling on the federal government to move forward with the center so that we have accurate measurements and data that can be used to inform future policy. So thank you.
And now my editorial comments on the urge to bring action on methane emissions.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
How about this for a follow-up from Kamala Harris? I don't even know what this is.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
What? A heartbeat away from the presidency. Wow. Somebody appears to have fallen out of a coconut tree. Wow. Unbelievable. 3 in 4 Canadians negatively view China as a trading partner, according to a new survey. So we're seeing this diplomatic conflict escalate between Canada and China. And as that is going on, new data has shown that 3 out of 4 Canadians view the Chinese government in a negative light. There's a new survey out from Nanos Research, which asks Canadians how they viewed a list of countries, including Germany, the United Kingdom, the US, Mexico, France, and China, and whether each one would stand as a valuable trading partner to Canada. Well, more than 8 in 10 Canadians say they do have a positive or somewhat positive opinion of the United Kingdom, deeming it a valuable partner alongside Germany and the US, France, and Mexico. The results also found that 75% of Canadians have a negative or somewhat negative opinion of China. So the pollsters say that it's a reflection of the strained relationship right now that Canada has with China. And it's about more than just the expulsion of diplomats on both sides. That apparently is just a symptom of a larger relationship problem. We're seeing some rot, I think, in the political system in Canada, and that rot is the result of corruption, money. Hopefully, we get to the bottom of it. And this survey is revealing and important because as all of this is going on, I'm seeing this heightened rhetoric, this sharper tone to the words being used, as I indicated earlier in the broadcast too, these parallels between the problems between the United States and China and the problems between Canada and China. And maybe it's not so much that there are problems, but there is excessive cooperation to a point that maybe crosses some lines on both sides of the Canada-US border. I don't think that should really come as much a surprise for anyone because that is really how China has been operating for a long time. It's been right out in the open. They influence our universities, our institutions, our educational institutions, even our corporations by pumping money in, making donations or investing. Our real estate markets, they're buying up a lot. And hey, if you can influence some politicians to get some favorable treatment when it comes time to pass new laws, new legislation, well, that's the way The game is played largely. That's just one more tier, one more element in this fifth generation warfare, right? One more element. It's all about the money. And as a result, now we're seeing some concerns from Canadians, and that's because some of it's being exposed. Man, if we get to the bottom of all this stuff and it actually all comes out, can you imagine? I don't think I can. But I've said before, I think the key to most of the problems that we have politically is more transparency. Mandatory transparency is the solution to the mandatory vaccines. Mandatory transparency for the politicians. The mandatory transparency for politicians is the answer, the solution to the digital ID, to the central bank digital currency, to a lot of these problems that we're facing. And this new technology, these new technologies that are coming, emerging, we're not going to stop them. If you're listening to people out there who are telling you that we need to fight so that we can stop these things from happening, you're listening to a moron, because you're not going to stop it. I can't stop it. You can't stop it. It's like a force of nature. It's evolution. It's coming whether we like it or not. So better to prepare for it and take steps to deal with it than to think that we're going to roll back time and roll back technology and do what? Outlaw digital technology? Oh yeah, we can push, try to get government to make sure that they don't replace cash. We ran that video for you earlier today, the Canadian government explaining more about the digital currency. I suppose what I should do is really run it for everyone again. If you missed it earlier today, which you probably, many of you did, I'm certain many of you did. Here it is here. Let me bring this up for you. And I'll run the Government of Canada Central Bank Digital Currency video. They are doing a survey. And if you want to participate, you can, they say. I know many of you won't want to. But here's this. Okay, so that's up for you to see now. It says, a digital dollar for a digital future. Have your say. And there is a survey that you can take. It says, take the survey. And they have this video on this page. Let me switch the page. And this will tell you what they have in mind. Here we go.
How Canadians pay for everyday things is changing. Some are using less cash in favor of other payment methods. To keep up with the changing ways that people pay, the Bank of Canada is exploring a digital Canadian dollar, also known as a central bank digital currency. Simply put, this would be a digital version of cash, but it wouldn't replace cash. It would have the same dollar value, and it would be accessible to anyone and everyone. You could use this digital Canadian dollar to buy everyday things, just like you use cash or a bank card, but it would be different. Unlike cash, you wouldn't need to carry multiple bills or change. Like a bank card, it would work for both in-person and online purchases. Similar to banknotes, it could possibly still be used when the internet is not available. Just like the cash in your wallet, it wouldn't earn interest. But it would be secure and private. You could keep your digital dollars securely on a phone, a card, or another device. At this point, at the Bank of Canada, we're still studying the possibility of issuing a digital Canadian dollar and how it might work. Tell us what you think about a digital Canadian dollar by taking part in our public consultation.
If you have concerns, I guess you can take the survey, send them your comments. If you're opposed to it, tell them so. I would say this, I don't think there's any way we could stop it. Countries around the world will adopt this technology and this approach. But maybe what we can do is put pressure on to preserve the use of banknotes, of cash. I use cash as much as I possibly can. Cash represents freedom, right? Because they can't track it. And if you use it, it's just a transaction between yourself and another party. With a digital currency, I think what we'll find is that, like using your debit card, there are service fees attached. I bet you they'll do that. And when they do that, every time someone makes a purchase, every time there's a transaction, they'll eat away a little bit more and a little bit more of the money. So it'll become like another tax, and it will erode your spending power. It'll erode the value of the dollar because, if I spend a digital dollar, maybe there's a service fee of 5 cents. And then the next person, another 5 cents and another 5 cents, right? You do that 10 times, 50 cents of that dollar is gone. To where? Back to the bank. They'll get filthy rich just on the transaction fees. Now, I can't say for sure if that's the way they'll do it. Maybe because this is still something the government is looking at, maybe we'll have an opportunity to have some sort of a say and prevent that kind of value erosion. But I'm not so sure those banks, they love their profits, don't they? The banksters. Yeah, with cash, that doesn't happen. I give you $1, it's worth $1. Nobody takes a service fee. You take that dollar, you spend it down at the local coffee shop, it's worth $1. The coffee shop takes that dollar, they spend it down the road, and they buy a bag of bolts or something at the hardware store with their dollar, and it's still worth $1 because there's been no erosion of value through service fees. Well, and the government can't really track the money in the same way. They really don't know. I mean, they potentially can through income tax later in a very loose way, but not like a digital dollar. I mean, they can track every transaction that way and make sure they extract every penny for every service fee and every tax, every sales tax. You can't escape. Yeah, and I know everybody's worried about it because yes, if you don't behave, well, they can just turn it off. That's the danger, right? Turn it off. Debank you. They can do that now. They can debank you now if they really want to. And we are already largely digital. They'll just refine the process and refine the tracking and integrate it into their other social tracking tools. It's all pretty scary. Okay, let's go to the phones. I'm going to run a couple of little promos here, and then we'll take some phone calls tonight. Hang in there. We'll be right back. Here's the number to phone.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Fear not the storm. For truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, before we get to the phones, just a reminder that you can support the channel by liking, sharing, subscribing. Please hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. We'll still try to build the channel over there a little bit. You know, we're not going to be on YouTube quite as much as we have been in the past, especially when we start talking about certain sensitive subjects, when we will dump off YouTube and head over to, these other platforms. But we are, after our 1 week ban, back in full force on YouTube, and happy to have everybody with us. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there on YouTube. But please consider subscribing over on Rumble. We really are growing over there, and we need as much support on the Rumble side as we can, because that, I think, is where the future is going to be. Because, pretty soon there will only be cat videos on YouTube, or fish videos on YouTube, like Fred the Freedom Fish and the Fish Cam, which we had lined up, but it seems to have disappeared. The feed's gone. Maybe I'll reestablish it before the night is out. Okay, so yeah, you can also support the channel by donating at freedomreporters.com. We could sure use your support. We appreciate the support that has come in, especially now more than ever, because we've been demonetized on YouTube entirely. Thank you, YouTube, for that. Appreciate it. Love you guys. You can also donate at maverickdonations.com. That's the Give, Send, Go page. freedomreporters.com is the PayPal page. Either way, it works either way, whatever you're more comfortable with, if you're inclined to make a donation. So really appreciate that. And you can call in and join the conversation tonight at 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Let's bring up, here we go. Okay. Let's bring up the proper window here so we can get the phone lines integrated into the feed. And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to rock and roll with our first caller of the night. And here he is. It's Rob. Hello, Rob. How are you tonight?
What's going on, Rick? Man, did I hit the lottery? That's two first-time callers 2 nights in a row. How about that?
Yeah, you're on a roll, my man.
Well, Mouth of the South needs to get back in there.
I guess so, yeah.
Look, I just had some quick. I wanted to talk about Fred. I'm real interested in this Fred thing.
Yeah.
And
Fred's fish cam is not on at the moment, so I can't show you Fred. I don't have.
That's okay. I'm sure he could probably hear the conversation.
Sure. Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah. And just so people, for
actually,
new viewers,
you
just
know-
so you know, for new viewers, Fred is a fish, and we are building a utopian society, and he is the first fish in his country. So that makes him an indigenous fish to his country, and we're going to be exploring all kinds of political issues. But you go ahead. Sorry there, Rob, and I'll let you continue.
That's quite okay. You're the man. It was a couple of topics that we had been discussing about concerns to Fred in this new world, of environment. And we had suggested, we had talked about money issues and exchange and everything. And, the thing is it's more of a barter, if you ask me. It's either a pound of salt or 2 pounds of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It's what a person feels to need and what they're not willing to have to steal from somebody else. That's basically it. But I'm just curious as to say, you made a good point earlier if I give you $1 and you give that $1 to somebody else, it stays $1.
Yeah, that's right.
By the time, if you give that $1 to a banking investment or anything else, you'll be lucky to have any money left at all.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
So,
I kind of was hoping with Fred, what we could do is kind of deal with sort of one issue at a time. And because he's new to his country, and maybe you can give me some thoughts on this, he has basically a country, but he's there all alone. And so things are bound to change. And one of the things that's going to change is other fish, maybe even people, will want to move to the same country. They'll want to, move in. So it's an immigration issue. And here's this guy. He wants in. And this guy here, he's like a military type dude. He has a gun. And so what Fred going to do about this guy? Does this guy get to come?
Yeah.
What does Fred do with him?
One is we got to teach Fred how to protect his environment from people. I mean, not people. I'm talking about other fish.
Yeah.
What it amounts to is you really don't want to invite anybody into your world.
Well, he's not being invited. He's showing up on the border, and he has a gun. Does this guy get in? And how's Fred going to stop him? And if Fred's not going to stop him and he lets him in, what's he going to do with this dude? Maybe he's friendly.
Oh, it could be worse. It could be way worse than that. He could have some kind of a fish disease that wipes out all the rest of the fish.
Good.
So I think we should probably have him checked for any kind of diseases. Make sure he's physically clean.
So here's a little G.I. Joe. What are we going to do with G.I. Joe? What are we doing with him?
We got to import him.
Yeah, he's right over there. He's on the border. The Fred's country is like right here. He's on his way to the border now. He's got the gun.
Yeah.
Right. He can do whatever he wants pretty much, because if Fred says no and this guy says yes, he can shoot Fred in the head and take over the country.
Well, the thing about it is that was my advice for Fred to, how is he going to protect himself from that?
Good question. I mean, that is the question I'm asking you right now. What's Fred going to do when this guy shows up?
He needs a foreign diplomat to step in there and maybe
Fred's
give
there all
him
by
some
himself.
advice.
He's by himself.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Is he allowed to have diplomats?
He is, but there are none around. He's there by himself. There's nobody there to help him.
Well, we got to find out. If this other fish has weapons and guns and everything else, then ask. That's the same that would probably be asking the question.
In my hand right now. He's on his way. He's on his way over to the border. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to move on to the next call. You think about it. We have to resolve this because he's going to get there within the next day, and Fred's going to have to deal with this one way or another. Or maybe we'll have to help Fred because we're sort of an omnipotent, godlike.
It's kind of hard to not help. It's kind of hard not to lend a hand, in the right direction. Of course.
So, anyway, these are pressing issues, and this is how society is actually formed from the beginning. So we're going to move on and talk to Dragon. But thank you, Rob. I appreciate the call.
All right.
Here's Dragon. Hello, sir. How are you tonight?
Doing great. How are you tonight, my friend?
I am okay. What do you want to talk about?
Cool. Well, actually, there's a crazy world going on, my friend. Tell you that. Our friend Fred needs a constitution, right?
So we were talking about it. Yeah.
For most, 5 gallon doesn't get you a lot of space for other fish. But the thing is, you can bring probably 1 or 2 friends in there. I don't know which one you're gonna find because it's a feisty fish. Why am I calling that a ship? Whatever. Yeah, but yeah, your fish is a feisty one, so he's gonna fight for his life. So we need a constitution. And you're going to have to be careful with Hicks. You know what Hicks is?
What Hicks? Tell me.
Hicks is a parasite.
Oh, ick. Yeah, ick. Yeah. I get that, but the more immediate danger is this guy with a gun. I'm trying to have this discussion about the introduction of weapons and coercion into society, and whether this guy gets to force his way into the community, or whether Fred should try to expel him. And if Fred does, he risks being killed. This is a complicated social issue and a political issue. Does Fred even have the right? Does Fred actually own that space? Is Fred sovereign to that territory? Is that Fred's country? Does Fred get to decide who gets to come in and who doesn't? What gives Fred the right? What gives Fred the right to decide who comes in and who does not?
He's the first. He's the first that has been in that little tank.
So
that makes him like probably the leader.
Does it?
No,
this guy doesn't see it that way. This guy might just think, well, look there's lots of space here. There's one guy over there. Who cares about him? He's just a fish. I think I'll just move in. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, stake a claim. So what are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
Does Fred have the right to say yes or no?
Sure he does.
Okay.
Why wouldn't he?
Well, this guy says no. Why does Fred have more of a right than this guy?
Good question. I think he would have the same right than the other guys.
This guy's been homeless.
But this is the thing.
He has no country, and he just discovered the new world. This is Fred's world. He never knew about Fred, and to this guy, Fred seems kind of primitive. And Fred doesn't.
So we're
have a
entering
gun.
into coexistence.
Fred doesn't have any guns, no weapons, but
Rhetoric.
this guy does. So does this guy get to just move in and just say, "Screw you, Fred, and if you don't like it, I'll shoot you in the head"?
No, this is really not a good way to go. I wouldn't say that, but it's a hard question, my friend. Seriously, man, hard question.
Yes, because
If the guy comes with a gun,
in the end, if you have a sovereign territory, if you have a sovereign country, if you have sovereignty, the only way you really ultimately get to keep it is if you can defend it, because ultimately someone is going to come along and try and take it from you. Don't you think?
Right.
So what's Fred to do? This guy showed up and he says, "Screw your sovereignty. I'm taking this country." And Fred says, "No, screw you. This is my country and I was here first, and you have no rights here. You have no jurisdiction." And this guy says, "Screw you. I'm going to come in and take it over anyway. I'm going to take it over." And then Fred says, "I don't know where it goes. You either negotiate, but you have to have something to negotiate with." Fred has something this guy wants: country, space, water, resources, food. This guy's looking for a home. Now you've got a conflict. This guy wants in. Fred says no. Or maybe Fred says yes, but maybe there will be conditions. There has to be some sort of a negotiation now, right? Because this guy has force. He has a gun. So he can force himself in. He can use coercion, violence even.
Can we use gel?
Gel? What do you mean gel?
Gels.
Oh, jails.
You
Well,
know,
if
you
you're going to
put
put
the other
somebody in
fish.
jail,
If one fish doesn't coexist with the other one, you put it away
well,
from
maybe,
the other
but
one.
if you're going to put someone in jail, how do you enforce that? It comes down to your ability to enforce. So now you need laws written down someplace, maybe, or are we just relying on natural law and common law? Because, that's just the law of God and it comes from the Bible, I guess, which is written down someplace. But is that refined enough? Does that give you
Okay.
enough information? Like, where do we go with this?
Law comes from basically a structure of, I would say, the 10 Commandments of the Bible, or the common law, like some say, right?
Yeah.
It's basically question of respect and coexistence between you and the other people around you. So, if I get it right, okay, those law needs to be agreeing with those things, which what we call today constitutional law, right?
Which is
those
written by
constitutional
people.
law,
Yeah, it's written down.
well, written down by people, which become government, sure.
Yep.
But the thing is that those constitutions have a meaning, and you need to be inside a certain sense, if you will, to not digress into, I would say, chaos, right?
Potentially.
So by structuring your law around, you need to structure your law around the fact that you don't want to have chaos around you. So
Maybe.
This is where the coexistence part of the law needs to be held on. So say you got two fish now, okay? And one doesn't want the other one to live around. Well, what does it mean in, say, the nature of the law, okay? There's always an alpha male that will always win his part, right? If you got too many fish on one side, well, this is a constitutional right of assembly or protesting against a certain law or a certain way to live. So basically, the more you had fish, the more you get probably hostilities, or you would have to accentuate life around the winners or the one that takes the power. It goes with, say, voting on a certain law to become, you know. But for a fish, I mean, how can a fish prove his point?
Well, we're not, you know, you have to think of Fred as not just a fish, right? That's sort of the point of the exercise. But we're going to move on because, you know, we're dragging this out a little bit. And, you know, I think we're going to start to lose people here. The point is, you've got a guy with a gun showing up on your border. You've got a brand new country. You have no constitution, no established laws. I guess the only thing that you have is whatever people refer to as common law or natural law. And even then, there's no precedent set because you have a brand new, fresh country. Unless you're looking at it, you know, in terms of the Bible, in which case you're looking at that and saying, well, you know, it's the 10 Commandments, and what are we predicating our laws on? The reasons or the justification for saying yes or no to this guy with the gun coming into the country. This guy's saying, I'm coming in and I've got a gun. And on the other side, you got to say yes or no. If you say yes, then you let the guy in. But are there rules that they now have to follow? And if you say no, then how are you going to stop him? Because you have no guns. You have no force at this point. Nothing to push this guy back. So now you potentially have a war on your hands. And Fred's going to have to arm up. You see? And even if you have a constitution, it doesn't mean a hill of beans if this guy's got a gun and you've got nothing. If this guy wants to come into the country and he's got a gun and you have nothing, then I guess this guy can do whatever the hell he wants because he's got the power. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
And you get an angry mob on the other side.
Well, complicated issues. We'll think about this overnight, revisit it maybe tomorrow. This guy's going to reach the border pretty soon, and we're going to have to deal with him. And Leo's waiting in the wings, so we better move on. But thank you very much for the call tonight, Dragon. It's been interesting.
My pleasure. Take care, my friend.
Okay, sir. All right, go ahead, Leo. Lay it on me.
You got them all the salted man without a plan to master all disasters coming to you, Rick. I went into work today at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I came home at 6:30, and my wife says, "What are you doing home?" I said, "I retired today." She said, "Really?" I said, "I wish." But it was nice. Machine failures. I said, I had enough. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. I'm going to go home and build my box for my garden. That's what I'm doing. But I went to Home Depot. On my way home, 6-inch spikes, galvanized. Okay. 6-inch, Rick. Galvanized. I bought, 44 of them It cost me $21 for 44 nails.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So luckily I got the wood for free. So it's about $700 worth of wood, right? So being in a shop, I pre-drilled all the holes, so it's like Lego. All they got to do is come home and put the shit together, right? I drilled everything out nice, and the lag bolts. I took everything apart. And there was 6-inch lag bolts. Okay, and I sharpened them up like nails, and that's what I'm using. Or those also right into it, so I saved myself some money there. So back to the stories on the police officer. It's a sad day when police officers get killed on the line of duty, but you know what?
Yes.
Put the badge on, and that's always happened. It's been going on since the day they put a badge on and started enforcing the law. Right? I've always said, how many construction workers die each year? A lot more than police officers, and we don't have any emphasis with media or anything. Right? When it happens, they don't even write a story about it.
That's right.
So it is a job. It's a coal miners, gold miners, mines collapse, people inside. Those are big stories when you got a dozen people trapped a half a mile underground, right?
Yep.
But like I said, the common machinist goes to work, he gets killed. You don't even hear about it in the news anymore, right? So sad.
Yeah, it's very, very true.
Back on to Kamala Harris. Me being a Caucasian, and if I was ever to say, "Oh, you fell out of a coconut tree," the racism alarm bells would be going. I'd be canceled. That'd be the end of the mouth of the South. I'd have to be on Rumble.
I hadn't even thought of it that way, but yeah, I think you're right. Didn't even occur to me, honestly. But yeah,
that's 100% racist. Okay, now her being mixed color, coconut trees, banana trees, pineapple trees. You just can't say that shit today, right?
Yeah.
She should be canceled, and hopefully she is canceled in the next election, right? So, if you miss that point, that's what I got from it was racism. If I was to say that in my household at the dinner table, I'd be eating a pie plate in the face.
Yeah, I was so naive. I didn't make any sense out of it at all, but I just wasn't thinking in those terms, but that's what it is. That's what it was about. To me, it was just like nonsensical, but you're on the money. Thank you for that. Just wasn't thinking about it that way.
Yeah. I live in a household of, my wife, we're Caucasian, but, we got family members that are mixed, right? Black, Asian, you name it. If I was to say that at the dinner table, I would be eating a fucking pie plate, Rick. Yeah. My wife don't put up with that shit. But here's Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, the most important person, second person in the world in the White House, and she gets away with saying something stupid like that.
Crazy, eh?
Yeah. Very crazy. But that being said, it was a quick call. I'm getting busy here on my garden, man, and I can't wait till it's done. Really, I can't. I can't wait to grow my own vegetables finally and be free from retail when it comes to my greens, and I know exactly what's on them. Okay, I'm all about organics to begin with, right? So I know exactly what's on it, and I'm putting on my table, right? So because you don't know when you go to the supermarket, those tomatoes, those tomatoes you were buying, they put a chemical on them to ripen them faster, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Cucumbers, all this. Right, so grow your own. Save yourself a couple bucks too in the meantime, and you know what your family's getting, right? Oh, and also, who was it? Kevin Westphal turned me on to pickled eggs.
Oh my
pickled eggs. Yeah, and I said, you know what? Look into it. And my buddy who pickles everything, right? He says, you could get the pickling salt, do your own brine, the whole 9 yards, or you could just buy a jar of pickles, a big Costco jar of pickles. Eat the pickles, and when you're done, you got the pickle juice. Drop your hard-boiled eggs in it, skin them, drop them in it, and in a week, they're done. They're fermented, and they last for who knows how long. I don't know, but I've been eating these pickled eggs like, they're cheap, $2.50 a dozen. It's cheap. I come home at night, 4 pickled eggs, toast. I'm happy. Thanks, Kevin.
Well, that sounds very Canadian to me. Is that Canadian? I don't know. It sounds Canadian.
I don't know, but it could be German. Anything pickled German, right?
I guess, yeah.
Sauerkraut, whatever. But try it out, folks. You guys are out there. It's cheap. Try it out, and you could use it as you like egg salad sandwiches. Okay, you can use a couple pickled eggs in there, and you got that dill taste also with your egg salad sandwiches. There's many things you could do with it. Eat them with hot sauce and soy sauce. It's wild. Thanks, buddy.
There you go.
The people I meet in now I'm pickling shit.
Thank you for the call,
Thanks,
Leo.
Rick.
All right, have a good one. See ya. Okay. So what we're going to do here is do this. If you are inclined to support the show, you can do that by donating at freedomreporters.com or at maverickdonations.com, which I just stated just a short time ago. Thank you, everybody who has donated. Greatly appreciated. It keeps us rolling here, keeps everything on the air, keeps the phone lines humming, pays for all of the stuff that we have to pay for. And there's more to pay for than meets the eye. Lots going on. So truly appreciate it. Again, freedomreporters.com or maverickdonations.com. We are going to wrap up early tonight. For a bunch of reasons. One of the reasons, my poor dog twisted his leg today. I'm not sure exactly how he did it, but he's been limping around, and I just want to spend a little bit of time with him. Make sure he's okay. And we've kind of burned through most of the important stories for this evening, so I think we've covered the important ground, all the important stories that we need to touch on tonight. And please like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Please subscribe over on Rumble. And if you're inclined, move over to Maverick News Channel 2 on Rumble, because over there we have, and I'll put the link in the description here or in the chat. The NCI is still rolling over there. They're still running. They're running late. So we still have that broadcast on. I will be monitoring that. And here's the link. I'll put that in the comments right there. And I'll put it in the comments on Rumble over here. This is the link to Maverick Channel 2 on Rumble. So, yeah, my puppy dog, he's going to be okay. He's not as much pain as he was, but he was limping around a little bit. I don't know exactly what the heck he did. So I'm going to go check on him, take him for a little walk, make sure he's going to shake off that little sprain or whatever the heck it is that he's done to himself. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. I will be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. with the National Citizens Inquiry, Day 2 of our coverage from Quebec City, front to back, top to bottom, bumper to bumper. And I'll be back 6 p.m. tomorrow evening with another regular Maverick News program. I will catch you all then on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.